All right, so here we've got a, I'm not sure of the year, but it's an old Foreman Rubicon 500. Really nice, fairly well kept until it sat for a little bit. They wanted me to just get it running and get it working properly. So first thing we're gonna do is clean off these nasty fenders. So as you can see, this quad is in just really good condition. Cleaned up nicely. I think we're gonna just dig into this carb at first. It's been sitting for a while, and she said it wouldn't start when they tried, so it's probably just the carb. They didn't use it for a while. We also have nothing from the battery, so obviously we'll need to either get a battery or try and recharge that one. So the first thing we're gonna start with is pulling the fuel line off, and we're gonna drain all the old gas out of here. There's not much, but you see there's a little, and it just reeks. Yep. All right, so I've hooked up the jumper pack for a minute. Just see if we get power. We do. Looks like 2,926 miles is all we got. Headlights work, all that. Let's see if we have electric start. We do. That's good. Reverse light works. All right, well, got the gas drained out. We're gonna start tearing out that carburetor. So you can see we've got the Honda all torn apart here. We've got the air box out, it's right there. And the carburetor's out, it's over on the bench over there. Along with cleaning the carb, we're gonna have to clean out this air box. We've got a mouse nest in there, and there's some mouse debris up in there. All right, so here's the current state of our carburetor. It's not terrible. We're gonna get that sensor pulled off. That's not gonna go in the bath or anything. We're not gonna fool with that. We're gonna take the diaphragm out. That's not gonna go in the bath either. But I'm gonna go pull this bowl off, and we're gonna see what state that's in. All right, so actually it's not too bad. It wouldn't have run. The jet's clogged, but it's definitely not even close to the worst I've seen. Here's why it really wouldn't run. It's just got a bunch of dried up crud in the bottom there. All right, so I've got everything cleaned up. Here's the end result of the carburetor. Not perfect, still kind of stained, but it looks great. Everything in there's cleaned up. I put some PB Blaster to kind of swell this old gasket up. I'm hoping to be able to reuse it, but if not, that's okay. I'll just order a rebuild kit. All right, and here's our nice carburetor all put back together. So we're gonna go put this back on the machine. But before we do that, we've got a couple mouse nests to clean out. You can see our air filter is just absolutely filthy. There's that. Okay, so I've got the carb back on at least, and all the cables and whatnot back on. Fuel line does leak, unfortunately, so we'll replace that, but surprised it doesn't choke out as much without all the air box and whatnot being there. See where our fuel line's wet. Just got a slow little crack in it. Let's see if it'll go into gear. Yeah, all right. Okay. So it is a little boggy, but like I said, we got to get all that extra stuff back on. All right, so there's our fuel line installed. We've got everything else installed. And temporarily, I blew all that crap off the air filter. Battery's still dead, but let's pull it outside now and see if we can get this thing to ride up and down the road and test the brakes. All right, so we've got it running. That runs good. All right, so it's pretty warmed up at this point. See, really no hesitation at all at this point, but runs good. We're gonna ride it around for a bit. The brakes work good, and we'll get some more work done on it. All right, so I talked to the owner of this four-wheeler, and they told me just to go ahead and take care of all the issues. So I pulled the battery out, and you see we have more stuff from all the mice and crap in there. So we'll get that shop backed out, and then I went ahead and fixed up these chewed wires. And we're gonna get that wrapped back up in electrical tape, tucked back up where it's supposed to be. All right, now that looks much better in there. Couldn't get everything, but it's not too big a deal. There's our repaired wiring harness. I wrapped it back in electrical tape like it was in, from the factory. No initial charging. I see. So I've picked up the battery for the four-wheeler. This is all they had that would work, and unfortunately this is the most recently manufactured battery that they had. And we got oil. This thing takes a lot of oil, 5 quarts. All right, so there's our old oil coming out. See, it's not the worst, but it's also pretty black. I just sat here for like an hour letting this thing drain out the oil, and I kept wondering why it was reading on the dipstick. I forgot that it has 2 drain plugs. There's one there, and then the other one's back there. So the way that these Rubicons work is this thing up here is called the oil tank. And so far we've put like 4.5 quarts in it, and it's full all the way to the top. And basically how you're supposed to check the oil and put the oil in is, if you're doing an oil change, put as much oil in as you can, probably around 4.5 quarts, and go start the engine, let it idle for a little bit and warm up, and then go check this level again. And the level should be within that fat section right there. All right, so we've got our initial amount of oil in there. We've got the battery installed. Let's see if I can illuminate that better. There we go. I'm gonna prime it real quick. So now as you can see, it's right there on that bottom mark. We've let it run about a minute, 2 minutes. So we're gonna go put more oil in. All right, so we just checked it again. It's gonna need a little more oil, but it's looking pretty good. So that's pretty good. We're gonna pull it back in the shop. I've got to go get another quart of oil, but that's no big deal. And last thing will be the air filter. Sweet. All right, so it's the next day here. I ran out last night to get some more oil and ran out of time. And you see now, we're just about in the middle, and you probably want to be closer to the side on the right in your case, according to the manual. So that's all good for the oil change now. So there was a leak on that back tire. We're taking care of that leak now. And I've gone over the whole tire, and the only thing that is actually leaking is just an old plug, so we'll get that replaced. All right, took it for a ride last night. She didn't leak out. We finally got our final part. A brand new air filter from Honda. It is pre-oiled. So let's get that installed. Yeah, see, that was just pretty far gone. There we go. All right, so there it is. We're gonna take it for one last test ride, let it get real warm and work everything like it should and make sure everything's good to go.